Then why are you still alive?
All of them are broken or dead, and all the new characters that I like in this game are dead and gone and broken.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Now, the news cycle is winding up on The Last of Us 2, and really the only thing worth paying attention to right now are running sales numbers and whether or not this game that was out of the gate so very strong with 4 million copies sold in the opening weekend will continue to keep that momentum, especially as very large influential YouTubers continue to put out their reviews, and it's extremely negative. In fact, The Last of Us Part 2 review by Angry Joe currently has 1.5 million views and is trending on gaming, giving it a 6 out of 10. It is essentially 48 minutes straight of dunking on the game, but that hasn't stopped Neil Druckmann from coming out and addressing the game's haters. 7 years after the release of the original, this is according to GameSpot, Last of Us Part 2 is finally out now on PlayStation 4, and even before release, writer Neil Druckmann acknowledged that some of the fans of the game would dislike the sequel. Then why is everyone so upset about it? Why are game journalists so obsessively standing for this game when the director of the game not only knew people would not like it, but also willingly set out to do it? Now, this includes hate directed towards one of the game's actors because of the character she plays. Speaking on former Nintendo boss Reggie Fils-Aimé's podcast, Druckmann said it's worthless to fight against people when they share the opinions about game, whether it's good or bad. However, Druckmann said he can't understand how people get so worked up about fictional characters. What? Dude, you profit from that. You know, that is such a disingenuous statement, Neil Druckmann. It is sad. Dude, your entire model of profit comes from making people fall in love with the players. You are a narrative game. It's not like you have Rocket League where people have the game and they like the game for its gameplay. The Last of Us is a game that makes players fall in love with the characters. And that's the story, is primarily why people buy these games. Quote, I think you have to create some separation to say, we made this game, we believe in the game, we're proud of this game. Now it's out, and it's like, whatever reaction people have, whether they like it or not, that's fair. Okay, Druckmann, fine. That's their reaction, and you don't have to fight that. The other thing is when the more hateful stuff, the more vile stuff, that's a little harder. It's especially harder when it sees happening to team members or cast members who play a particular character in the game. Now, going on, say, we have an actor and she's been getting a lot of really awful, vile stuff because of a fictional character she's playing in the game. Druckmann said, I have a hard time wrapping my mind around that. By the way, I don't endorse anybody piling on somebody for that reason. But I think Neil is being a little disingenuous here. If he's talking about the person that said, referred to all the negative reviews as bots. The Russian bots are out. Remember that? That was your, I think, Laura Bailey. I forget who said that, but it was somebody on your staff. If they did that and they got backlash, well, that's not exactly unwarranted. That said, if you're just a voice actor for the game, you shouldn't be taking heat for what somebody paid you to say. They go on to say, I have a hard time wrapping my mind around that. The thing is, I try to ignore as much as I can. When things escalate to being there are certain security protocols that we take, and I report it to the proper authorities. Then you just try to focus on the positive ones and focus on distracting yourself with other stuff. But it's kind of the reality. Also in the interview, Druckmann said he's been speaking with Chernobyl writer Craig Mazin, about the topic. They're currently working on together the HBO TV version of The Last of Us. Now, we've seen more TV shows. I think there's a Fallout TV show in the works with Amazon. I'm actually intrigued by that. You know, not every game is, not every Fallout game is Fallout 76, and there could absolutely be a lot of very positive things that come out. Now, I've been tracking sales. The one other thing here, Last of Us 2 director responds to heated online reaction. Few releases this year have proved as divisive as The Last of Us Part 2. While PlayStation 4 game has smashed sales records and dominated worldwide gaming charts, it's also been at the center of a particularly virulent backlash from former fans. While some early hate came as homophobic response to the inclusion of LGBT+, no, it didn't. No, it didn't. People knew that Abby was a part of that community and they didn't care. That's such a disingenuous thing to say. The game's a masterpiece. Mad people salty that they got tricked by Naughty Dog over the trailers were never in the game in order to keep the plot points secret. I don't know. I thought it was a smart move. No, that isn't why people are mad. People are mad with what happened and what you did to Joel. That's just fact. Look at all the major reviews. Look at SkillUp's review. Look at Angry Joe's review. This is like, what, 3 million, 2 million, 2.5 million views of people that don't talk about diversity and inclusion. These are two people that are openly, like, I would say, very progressive individuals. What do you say of their criticisms? Or are you ignoring that? But also now via Spiel Times, The Last of Us Part 2 sales drop 85% week on week in Japan. An even bigger drop. The Last of Us Part 2 box sales data in Japan is out, and it seems that the game has dropped severely in its second week. According to the reports, The Last of Us Part 2 sales have dropped 85%. To be accurate, 85.45%, so nearly 86%. Earlier, we reported on Last of Us Part 2 box sales dropping 80% week on week in the UK. Some said it wasn't unusual. I mean, is it? But if you compare it to the drop to other Sony first-party titles, it's very significant. And here's where the whole thing falls apart. And this is some good research done by Spiel Times. Keep in mind, these are data for retail only, not digital sales. But it's, you know, tomatoes, you know, it's apples to apples, so to speak. Even though I'm guessing that the overwhelming majority of purchases these days are still digital. To compare the figures, Uncharted 4, another Naughty Dog game, saw a 78% drop in sales during its second week. To contrast, Marvel's Spider-Man box sales dropped by 42% in its second week. God of War only seeing 35% fall in second week. Days Gone, on the other hand, saw a 60% drop. To talk figures, The Last of Us Part 2 sold a whopping 178,696 retail copies in its first week in Japan. The game easily ranked number 1 on the sales chart for the same week. In the second week, it plummeted to the 4th position, only selling 25,000 copies. Getting beat by Animal Crossing New Horizons, which has been out for how long? That game's been out for months. Ring Fit Adventure and Clubhouse Games' 51 worldwide classics. We're trying to gather more data on The Last of Us Part 2 sales across different regions and countries, and we'll update you soon. Liana Kersner, a YouTuber and analyst, said, these figures, more than any online screaming, indicate what the public interest actually is. Well, I mean, ultimately, when you look at this report, 3DS, SpongeBob SquarePants, and The Last of Us 2 lead UK charts. It's not unusual for UK box chart this week. It's an unusual UK box chart this week, with several 3DS titles making the top 40. The number one game is far from surprising. PS4 exclusive The Last of Us 2 holds the number 1 spot for the second consecutive week. Sales have dropped 80% week on week, which is a heavy fall, but not unusual for a game that sold as strongly as it did in the first week, when it eclipsed Uncharted 4's debut to become the fastest-selling PS4 exclusive. By comparison, Uncharted 4 dropped by 78% in sales during its second week. It's worth noting that this is purely box sales, and digital download sales have increased since Uncharted 4 was released in 2016. Certainly, 4 years ago. There are actually 2 The Last of Us games in the top 10 this week, with The Last of Us Remastered at number 9 after an 82% rise in sales week on week. That's good. That means you have new players who have never played The Last of Us 1, probably, buying The Last of Us 2, and then saying, wow, I like this game so much that I'm going to go buy The Last of Us 1. These are clearly people that liked it, but it would also make sense because these are people that weren't mad about what happened to Joel because they had no frame of context for it. You know what I mean? And The Last of Us Remastered is still a highly selling game. I mean, if you look at even a week ago, it was number 17. Moving up to number 9, but the fact that it's still number 17 is impressive given how long it's been out. Now, I would argue that having reviews that have 1.4 million views and rising, and Skillup's reviews probably has over 1 million views, both panning the game, are going to negatively affect the long tail sales for it. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see, because I'm wondering what this means for long-term sales for The Last of Us 2. A couple of reasons. One, will it see a spike in PS5? One thing that a lot of people are talking about is, are there people waiting to play it on the PS5? I would think certainly so, right? I'm not exactly super interested in buying existing generation consoles when I know in just a few months the PS5 will be out and I'll want to play it on that console. So maybe there are a bunch of people waiting to play it on PS5 and you're going to see another huge spike there. What kind of spike will we see at Christmas? Is the game going to cross a 10 million sales threshold? I would certainly expect so. But now that most of the big YouTube reviewers are out, the question will be, does it affect sales? You have, when you look at 144,000 upvotes, if I refresh this, I don't know how long it's been, but now 148,000 upvotes to less than 10,000 downvotes. So about 15-to-1 ratio. These are all people that agree with the review. These are all people that aren't going to run out and buy the game. Or they're people that already own it, which is possible as well. It'll be interesting to watch this as sales trail here. We'll probably have to wait another several weeks before we get any real significant data, if they ever even release the digital data. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think The Last of Us 2 is going to see a big spike this year? Do you think it's going to recover? I'll be interested in reading your comments on the comment section down below. We'll talk to you again real soon.